Well, good morning. We are almost done with Deaf History Month, celebrating in America anyway. Uh, but there's something that's a little bit more important, dare I say. Not that Deaf History Month is not important. Please don't read that the wrong way. Um, we have something that's going on in America that I don't think people are really quite understanding. They're not grasping. Um, I did have a conversation with friends of mine who said things like, the ADA is not going anywhere. There's still, protection and rights and all of this. Um, Heads up, for those of you that feel like with all of the changes that are going on, right? I know those three scary letters, DEI. Ooh, we know what it was made for. We know how it's been used. We know that some places it's been misused and some places it's been used greatly. Educate yourselves as much as possible, right? But with that comes Section 504. For those of you who don't know what Section 504 is, it started in 1973 as part of the Rehabilitation Act. Okay, so this is not very old. I mean, I guess it is old. We're all old now. Um, but in my opinion, not that old. It's older than the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it's been around for a while. Here's what people are not seeing. This is what's not being covered. This is where the general public is just unaware. And so when I learned of it, I was like, I'm sorry, what's happening? This is a real thing. And I went looking through, and sure enough, this is a real thing. So, right now, there is a lawsuit being put up by 17 states against the federal government and Section 504. Basically, they're saying that this shouldn't be federally mandated, that each state should just kind of do what they want with it. We're responsible. We don't need you to babysit us. No. Amongst some of those states are the great state that I live in, of South Carolina. I believe Texas is the one who started it. If I remember the stat correctly, South Carolina is 49th in the country of implementation of Section 504, which means if given the opportunity to be accessible or not be accessible, South Carolina is most likely going to choose not. Um, they don't want to be bothered. And they are asking the federal government to say, let us regulate it. We're going to handle it ourselves. What essentially that means is that they're not going to follow the Section 504. They're not going to provide accommodations, and the ADA is going to be out the window. There will be a loss of rights. That is clear as day. If you don't know what Section 504 is, here's a little quick snippet according to Google AI. That's AI, not A1. Section 504 prohibits discrimination based upon disability in any program or activity receiving federal funding. Schools, i.e., in case you're wondering. It applies to entities like schools, hospitals, and other organizations that receive federal money. Key protections. It ensures that individuals with disabilities have equal access to programs and benefits. An example: accommodations for students with disabilities in school, modified assignments, assistive technology. Enforcement is the U.S. Department of Education and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So, without this, and this is a civil rights issue, right? Like, this is making sure people have a level playing field. I know for a fact that South Carolina does not understand the concept of Section 504. I had to have additional Zoom meetings with a professor of mine because I was like, I'm sorry, break this down because that's not what I was taught. Literally, as a former educator in the state of South Carolina, married to an educator in the state of South Carolina, we were not given the proper discussion of what Section 504 is. This is scary. In disability meetings I don't know, how do I even break this down? Let's say a student needs some accommodations. Our school systems would provide an IEP, an individual educational plan, for those with great need of accessibility, accommodations, all of that. So these are developmentally delayed. Okay, like that's what we're gonna go with. These are people who are their entries into the Special Olympics. Is the I don't know how to make it clear to people who understand. There are students who were receiving a 504 plan. This is what they are calling it. Not an IEP, not an individualized educational plan. They were calling it a 504 plan, which was saying that yes, they need accommodations, but not as much as the IEP. Again, I had to sit down with a professor who is an accommodations specialist, for Harvard University and places like that. And she flat out said, that's not how that works. I was like, I'm just telling you that I sat in 504 meetings for a 504 plan because the accommodations were, and she was like, that's not what it is, right? Section 504 is legislation. It's not a plan. It's legislation. It's part of the the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. That's it. It's here's the act and here's section 504. This is what it says. Hello? So the fact that South Carolina literally has these two separated, you have an individualized education plan and a 504 plan, it doesn't exist. We are literally not doing it right in the education system. Whoever started doing this and has brought it through for generations has not been using it correctly, and nobody is challenging the system to say, that's not a thing. So apparently I need to start doing that. I don't know. Maybe that's something else to do in my free time. Guys, if this lawsuit wins, if these 17 states say, we want to not be federally governed in how we handle Section 504, this is only going to get worse. It's disability Jim Crow laws is what it is. It's we will take care of it as we see fit. One of the big issues that I already have within the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, is that when it comes to accommodations, the phrasing is reasonable accommodations. Who's providing the reasonable accommodations? The entity. Who is saying that it's reasonable? The entity. When a deaf person comes in and says, this isn't reasonable for me, the entity can say, we provided reasonable accommodations. And a deaf client can sit there and go, this isn't reasonable for me. This doesn't work for me. And they're still covered because they provided an accommodation that they found to be reasonable. That's the problem, right? Section 504 is providing that level playing field, schools, hospitals, whatever, to make sure things are okay. we're already not okay. And now we're going to get rid of it. Now we're going to lose the backing that say, no, you have to provide this. And the state can go in and say, we did it. We took care of this. We provided what we needed to provide. It's insanity, is what it is. And it is going to take away the rights of anyone with a disability. And I know a lot of people are going, oh, well, it's not like they're going to destroy ramps. The ramps are already built. So clearly somebody using a wheelchair is still going to be fine. They're not going to turn the ramp into a stair. No. But Section 504 also covers those with reading disabilities, your dyslexic child, or what other learning disabilities might come. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that that goes on. There are a lot of things that classify as a disability that's more than just a wheelchair user, a deaf person, a cerebral palsy, whatever. We have so many disabilities that are happening, including learning disabilities that are not an IEP, according to South Carolina. Some of the accommodations that are on there are things like little Susie gets extra time on her tests. Billy gets to go to a separate room for his test. Johnny uses one of those little plastic phones so he can talk into it and it goes straight to his ear and it doesn't distract his classmates, but he can now hear what he's reading and so he can read it better. All of those are accommodations. Classroom seating is an accommodation. These are all, they're small. You don't know it, but they're there. And somebody might say, well, won't the teacher do that anyway? You mean that teacher with 38 students in her class who is overworked and underpaid is going to sit down with each and every student and make sure every single one of them gets exactly what they need every single time? She's doing her best. Sometimes she doesn't have time. The reason why those IEPs and 504 meetings happen is because they're allowing the teachers to get the paperwork that says the child has already been evaluated. We know what they need. Here you go. Make sure this kid gets that. Make sure this kid gets that. So the teacher doesn't have to stop what she's doing and she has it in plan. The parents know or should be, not all the parents are in. There should be some collaboration between school psychologist, district, parents, and the teachers to say, this student has been evaluated, plus doctors and all that stuff. This is what they need to be successful. And then you give it to the teacher. The teacher sits down, says, nice to meet you. This is what you need. Great. If there's anything else, let me know. And she goes through, or he goes through. And that's what they do. They provide those accommodations without having to set up the evaluation, without having to go through. If we don't have somebody who's mandating that, if we don't have somebody that's fighting for our children and fighting for the parents of those children, it's going to slow everything down. And there will be teachers who I know as a tutor, I would look at a child and be like, this is what's wrong. This is what needs to happen. And then we'd work on it. That was my job as a tutor. I was working with kids who were struggling with reading. Well, how do we fix that? They came to me. Not every person can afford a tutor. Not every parent can go through these realms, and not everybody is going to catch those things. And I'm sure there are plenty of things that I missed. But this is what needs to be happening. These are conversations that need to happen. Without that enforcement of it, the state will be able to do whatever they want. And the state will say, sure, we provided accommodations, or, well, we put all of them in this classroom. One of the things that happens with that, we've seen it already. There are children who have learning disabilities who are very well behaved and they're trying their best, and they get sent into a classroom and they're mixed in with kids who have behavioral issues, who don't give a fart about trying to work and doing whatever, and then it becomes like a safety issue. It's really hard to learn when you already have a learning disability and you're also worried about your safety in that classroom. We don't need this. Okay, what we need is for Section 504 to do what it's supposed to do. We need for people to get behind Section 504, not fight it. We need every single person, if check the list, go through, even if you're not in South Carolina, right? If you live someplace else, check for that lawsuit. Just Google lawsuit against Section 504. And there will be multiple sites that pull up the documentation. 17 states right now are trying to fight it. 17. If you are in one of those states, tell people in charge, we are not for this. Get out of this lawsuit. We don't want to be a part of this. We want to have Section 504. We want to provide accommodations. We want to make sure that our kids, that our hospitals, that all these things have the fairgrounds. Everybody gets what they need, right? I say it every single time. If you want to understand what accommodations looks like, picture a doctor's office. You know, we have those doctor in a box type places, right? There's a bunch of them, Doctor's Care and whatever. Everybody's, I don't know. Huh. Excuse me. So, if everybody goes to these emergency doctor places, right? First person has the flu. Second person has a laceration on their arm. Third person has a concussion. Fourth person has a broken foot, right? And the first person was treated was this person with the flu. They are given medication, they are given Tylenol, they are given all these things, right? And then they're sent home to rest and recover. They've given this person with the flu the plan for how to get better. They then take that plan for how to get better, they give it to the person with the laceration. Tylenol might help ease some of that pain, but that person's going to bleed out without stitches. That person isn't going to heal correctly if you're treating them for the flu when they have a laceration. Oh, the person with the concussion? Now, some of those treatment things might actually be harmful. Not only will it not work, but it'll work negatively. The broken foot, you ain't done jack squat. Okay, Tylenol, reduce some of the swelling. What are they supposed to do? Just walk around on a broken foot? The reason why we have accommodations is so that each person gets what they need. If you were the person with a laceration on your arm and you've got blood gushing out everywhere and they treat you for the flu, you're going to walk out there, you're going to be a little bit upset. Plain and simple. If your loved one goes in with a concussion and they get treated for the flu and maybe they have more brain damage because they were told to lay down and sleep and you're supposed to stay awake for a little bit. I've had a few concussions in my life, right? You're supposed to stay awake. You're supposed to stay not moving, but at least resting with your eyes open, like you're supposed to be awake and cognizant for X amount of hours, depending on the level. You send them home and say, go to bed. Here's some Tylenol. Here's something that opens up, that dilates the blood vessels. You might have additional brain bleeding going on now, but go take a nap. Maybe you'll wake up, maybe you don't. Would you, if you were the relative of that person, would you be happy with that doctor? No. No. And we understand this in the medical field, but we seem to forget it in other places. We seem to forget that accommodations across the board means accommodations across the board. Like, why is this so difficult? It's not about like, let's give them a hands up. It's let's level the playing field. If I wanted to, I could get up, throw on some sneakers, and go for a run right now. Not everybody has that option, right? So, what do we do to level the playing field? I can hear every word that comes out of my children's mouth, unless I'm ignoring them. Other parents don't have that. So, how do we level the playing field? When I'm sitting in a classroom, you guys know where this is going. You can finish it. You understand it. You've got to fight against this lawsuit. If Section 504 goes away, the rights of every American with disabilities is gone too. or you're going to see them flood to the states that still have Section 504. South Carolina is already using it incorrectly. That was made very apparent to me a few years ago. It it has to be here. It has to be stronger, and it has to be enforced properly. And that's where we're struggling. And now we want to do away with it. This is where we are. Fight it. Do better. Be better. Let's actually make a change for people who need it, for people who desire it. Half the time, people don't even know what they need. What are we going to do? Just let them hang out? Do nothing? Every single human has a purpose. They should have a plan. And we can all work together to make this happen. Fight the lawsuit, please, and thank you. And y'all have a great day.